Hi, everybody. Welcome to this session. This is the Women in Cybersecurity East Africa affiliate that has members from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. But we're looking to draw membership as well from our neighboring countries, which include Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. My name is Mercy Omolo. I'm going to be moderating this session alongside my panelists. With me on the line, I have Pauli Mutu, who is an associate at KPMG, handling cybersecurity consultancies. I have Agah from Uganda. She's a manager, IT security standards and architecture at DFCU Bank in Uganda. I have Laura Temesi, who's the Chief Information Risk Officer for Stanbic Bank Kenya. And I have Befana Wilfred, who is the Cyber Defense Operations Manager for Vodacom Tanzania. The topic for today will be discussing cybersecurity landscape in East Africa, giving you an overview of what are the threats that are happening within this region, what are the drivers that are making these threats become more increased, and what organizations are doing to mitigate these threats, as well as what regulators and what specific countries within this region are doing to be able to ensure that threats and the cybersecurity landscape is being handled in an effective manner to contain the threats within the countries. So I'll start by asking my panelists to introduce themselves. I'll just give them about a minute or so each to give us an overview of what they do. Then we'll begin with the questions. So I'll start with Pauli Mutu from Kenya. Pauli, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Pauli Mutu. I'm from Kenya. I work with KPMG, mainly with a focus of cybersecurity and data privacy. My work revolves around conducting cybersecurity maturity assessments aimed at identifying what's the security posture in an organization, identify gaps, and provide recommendations on how they can improve their posture. In terms of data privacy, I help organizations to see what are the compliance gaps when it comes to the various regulations, considering the EU GDPR, which affects some of the organizations. And also you're looking at the Kenya data protection and now the Uganda data protection as we work across the East African region. Just a disclaimer, I'm here on my own. Everything I say is not a representation of KPMG. Thank you.
Thank you for the disclaimer. Diana, maybe I could go to you, Diana from Uganda.
Thank you, Mercy. Good day, everyone. My name is Diana Agah. Currently, cybersecurity. I look at myself as a cybersecurity enthusiastic person. I didn't start out in cybersecurity. I am originally a telecommunication engineer, but I picked a passion into cybersecurity because of the nature on how it evolves. It keeps you on your toes. It is intriguing, and that has been my journey for the last around 5 years. That's when I went into security. And currently in Uganda, I'm part of the Shilid Tech for ISACA. I am part of IC Squared Uganda chapter, and I'm happy to be part of the Women in Cybersecurity East Africa. And we are all about having more women on this journey with us, mentoring them and ensuring that the gap that we have within the cyberspace is narrowed in terms of skill sets and in terms of the women representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Befana, I'll go to you next.
Okay. Hi, ladies. My name is Befana Wilfred. I'm currently working with Vodacom. Apparently, Vodacom is my first company.
I think we're getting some network issues.
Industry. Previously, I was working with banks. So I think I have got an idea of both industries, both banks and telecom. Yes, can you hear me?
Right, it's becoming a bit better now.
Can you hear me?
We struggled to hear you, but I think what I've gotten from what you've said is that you have some experience within the telecommunication sector, as well as the banking industry. Okay, I think we're getting a bit of time lag. We'll come back later. Laura, you can give us a brief overview of your experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mercy, and hello to everyone.
Yes.
I'm Laura. I'm the Chief Information Risk Officer at Stanbic Bank Kenya, accountable for information, technology, cybersecurity, data, digital, and innovation-related risk. I also oversee strategic partnerships from a second-line perspective that are associated with the innovation and fintechs. In terms of experience, I have over 15 years experience in the industry. And for me, I think what my passion is just bringing other people along with me. All the areas that I oversight are seen to be an exclusive area of core tech people or mainly an area of interest for men. But I think for me, it's to open it up and make people see that the world of cybersecurity technology is open to anyone, and there are many different things you can do. You don't have to be the one fixing the bolts and the nuts. You can still be an advisor without being able to fix the bolts and the nuts. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the outcome of today's session. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can see, we have a very diverse and rich panel in terms of experience within the cybersecurity industry within East Africa. And maybe Laura, I'll stick with you as we begin the session. So what do you think are some of the cyber threats that are becoming more prominent in East Africa, and especially during this pandemic?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question, Mercy. I know one of the biggest threats we are facing right now is social engineering. And the social engineering threat is translating to many other things. So to begin with, during the pandemic, I think we've become more a sort of cashless, we're moving more towards the cashless side. But the thing is, in East Africa, we are not really a card-driven economies. So we are using a lot of mobile banking. And key for mobile banking is making sure that one has their PIN, they have their phone number, and we're seeing a lot of SIM swaps taking place. And they're taking place because of some successful form of social engineering. Now, the challenge with this is when you're social engineered and your mobile banking application details are picked up, then one can be able to siphon funds directly out of your bank account, for example. In as far as social engineering is concerned, we're also seeing a lot of organized crime groups that target organizations, reaching out to individuals within the organization that hold certain positions, just to understand better the layout of the land and be able to plan out how they're going to be able to attack the organization. So we are seeing a lot of social engineering, but also linked with the insider threat, right? We are seeing the need to do more awareness within the different organizations and just make sure that people are aware what is your responsibility, how to stay ethical, and reminding people of the provisions of the law. Because many people assume that you can do these things and get away with it, but we must remember that there's always an audit trail. So I think for me, that's a big thing that's coming out. Then of course, linked to that, I'm also seeing phishing. So there's social engineering and a lot of phishing taking place in the banking industry in Kenya. And this is something we've been discussing in the Kenya Bankers Association IT Security Subcommittee. We're seeing a lot of phishing that is actually targeted phishing, what you call spear phishing, where someone is actually intentional about getting details associated with an administrator or a super user or someone that has very high levels of delegated authority, so that at the point at which they're compromised, they're able to actually get the keys to the kingdom. So for us, that's a big thing right now. Thank you.
All right. And Pauli, given your experience within the consulting world, what are you seeing with clients still on the same issue with regards to different cyber security threats that are happening within East Africa?
Thank you, Mercy and Laura. I believe Laura has covered much of it. Phishing has been the key thing, as guys have now moved to online, where you're finding when COVID came, people started working from home, children also learning from home, everything changed. And with that, you're seeing even insider threats have also become rampant. Talking of phishing, you'll find that even the Directorate Criminal Investigations, PCI Kenya, have also been warning guys, especially during the seasons, the holiday seasons. Guys are being accused of, one, you're finding that people are now becoming targets, as where you'd find phishing links have been sent to us. When you're seeing that CAFA is offering, for example, CAFA is offering 20,000, or even if you do this, you're going to get like rewards. You find that has been circulating a lot in the social media, but at least the improvement part is where guys are now becoming aware and they're saying that, yeah, this is a phishing attack. And just when you need to look for such, if you want to confirm whether certain companies are providing promotions, you need not go check on their websites, whether it's their social media pages, just before you click or even submit that. Another thing I've seen is on insider threat, where you find a good example would be one of the, I'd say the largest banks in Uganda. There's an insider threat where you find an employer was involved in a very big cyber attack that even involved some payment service providers, some 2 telcos in the country, and it was such a big thing. And you find that as what was happening, though, still the cases was still ongoing. It hit everywhere. Some other things I would say more on the banking industry. We've also seen here in Kenya where students have been charged because of hacking into bank accounts, where you're seeing a couple of millions which have been stolen. Thanks.
Thank you for that insight. And just speaking on the banking industry, Diana, I don't know if you'd have anything to add on to that, especially given during this pandemic, there've been a lot of increased attacks, I think, on financial organizations, especially with regards to ransomware. Would you have anything to add with regards to what has been said?
Yes, Mercy, thank you. And starting from where Pauli has ended, I think to us in Uganda, the number one threat that we're seeing and relating to the financial industry is third-party threats or risk, because fintechs are here to stay, and we have to really work with them because they enable the digital journey or the tap into the unbanked through mobile banking, through agency banking. So they are key to the entire banking ecosystem, but they are quite small in their sizes. So you do not expect them to have that much investment or budget at their hand to have the cybersecurity capabilities that you'll find the big banks having. And yet banks have to work with them, they have to connect through them to offer their financial services. So high on top of our list in terms of the threats with third-party risk. And now we have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, we need these fintechs, we need these third parties. How do we carry them along the journey without necessarily taking on the cost that they need around their solution? So third-party risk is up there, and of course it doesn't work alone. Insider, like we have said, insider threat is quite there. There's a lot of collaboration. In East Africa, generally, we still have what we call script kiddies. The means of hacking are not yet that advanced, so they look out for the easier way. Can I get someone who will get me the credentials inside, and me, I'll just do this part? So third-party risk is something that is very critical. And when we see the recent incident around SolarWinds in terms of supply chain attack, it is something that even the big shots couldn't see coming, because you're trusting someone putting updates for their solution on their legitimate portal, and you're downloading, and before you know it, you're under attack. So I don't know if East Africa or Uganda is mature enough, for example, to handle supply chain attacks like we saw for SolarWinds. So we have our guts are up. We have to really up it up and say, what are those cheap and small controls that I can put in place to ensure that we improve that? Simple things like multi-factor authentication alone. You have an incident and you find that if something as simple as that was in place, it would have saved us a lot. So it's about finding ways to walk this cyber journey with both the third party, the fintechs, and the big financial banks to really narrow the gap. And also the fact that there's no much sharing. Laura talked about Kenya having a bankers association that deals, subcommittee that looks into this. But even Uganda, we do have UBA, which is Uganda Bankers Association, but information sharing is not happening. So a different financial institution is attacked, and because they have not shared, 3 months down the road, another bank is facing the same. So you're like, couldn't this have been kind of avoided? So third party risk to me is just up there. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I do agree on that. Third party risk has really gone neglected until these recent incidents have started happening. So I think more organizations are now becoming aware that it has to be at the forefront of what they're doing in terms of managing that risk from a business perspective. And still on the same, I think you and Pauli have touched on certain things that I would say are drivers for the changing threat landscape. So for example, like students who are getting into cybercrime or cyber fraud related incidents, would you attribute that to probably unemployment, or would you also say there's the need for us to train our students and in terms of ethics with regards to ethical hacking and the likes? Even as you look at East Africa as an organization, East Africa as a region, we are more inclined towards a lot of mobile banking, mobile activities that are happening. And so this is making the threat landscape increase significantly. So what would you say are some of the drivers that are changing our threat landscape? Is Befana with us now? Maybe you could touch on that.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Can go ahead.
Okay, so with regards to telecom, yes, so with regards to telecom, I haven't really seen anything different from what you guys have mentioned, as we also have, as we also have the risk originating from the third parties, but mainly the biggest risk that I've been encountering, over the time, it's mainly from the insider. Like you'd find the large percentage of whatever incidents or whatever fraudulent issues that are originating are mainly the insider threats. Why am I saying that? It's because, for a person from outside, it will take them quite some time for them to, get to know how the system functions, and until they find a weakness in the system and be able to exploit it, rather than someone who deals with it on a day-to-day basis. So for me, it's a little bit different. So majority of the time, it's someone from the inside collaborating with someone from the outside, especially when it comes to the money, the money transfer and things like that. On the mobile threats landscape. But we've also seen, like just as you guys have mentioned, the rise of script kiddies, especially in Tanzania right now. I think, the cyber security field is now is now picking up so greatly. I remember I went to the university and I had, seen a lot of university students now wanting to pursue cybersecurity. But these students are not managed, or I would say they're not properly trained professionally. So the first thing they will try to hack your system, or they'll try to they'll try to play along with the system, not in an ethical way. So also I have seen that. That's also I have also dealt with some few incidents when it comes to script kiddies and things like that. But I would still insist, for me, from the at the moment, it's mainly from the inside. It's someone who knows the system very well. They actually tend to collaborate with some people outside, and they make bad things happen.
Yeah, So just on what you're saying, there's the need for us as organizations, even as women in cybersecurity as an affiliate, we have a role to play in terms of helping our younger generation who is coming up with regards to the cybersecurity industry, to train them and try and bridge the gap between what is right and what is wrong, and how they can use their skills for the greater good. Because at that age, they're very curious and wanting to find out, okay, if I hack this organization, then what happens? And if that curiosity is not tamed in a good manner, it can lead to them now becoming part of these cybersecurity syndicates and the likes. Maybe to you, Laura, what would you say is another attribute or another driver that's changing our threat landscape in East Africa?
So part of what is changing our threat landscape in East Africa is actually unemployment and the current state, because the unemployment rate is quite low.
Yeah.
And yet we have people that are educated. So I think there seems to be quite a disconnect. The countries have instituted policies that guarantee that people will get at least a certain level of education, often all the way to tertiary education, whether it's through diplomas, etc. And the challenge we're seeing happening is that these people are going all the way, getting the education they need, and then they reach a point where when they want to get the jobs, the white collar jobs are very few. So what ends up happening is they almost become a victim of their own knowledge, and they end up being part of these groups, maybe because they've not been mentored so well, getting so excited about being able to hack into systems and not really appreciating the difference between ethical hacking, which has to be approved and authorized somewhere, versus just trying your luck.
Yeah.
Then we have situations where maybe also because of the general culture in Africa, at least in East Africa, it's really a trusting culture. So the opportunities are there. People will trust you with details which ordinarily they shouldn't trust you with, because you always believe that everyone has a positive intention in what they are doing. So all those factors then create the right catalyst around people then doing the wrong things, right? Because I'm a fresh graduate, I don't have a job, I found an easy way of making money quickly, I'm gonna go that direction. I'm a young graduate, I have people around me who are very trusting, I'm going to take advantage of that. So you add that all up together, I think that's one of the catalysts. The employment rates, the fact that we are not doing the right level of mentorship, because many of the times we look inwards. I've just observed that for most of us, even in the cybersecurity field, we will do the mentoring, but within a closed group. We will do it within our organization, within people who are interested, but who's reaching out to these people when they're still young to tell them that this is not the right way to go. Yeah. What programs have we put in place to be able to actually differentiate and identify between a person who is potentially good, but a high risk person, and a person who's good, but not a high risk, right? What kind of sharing do we do within the community to be able to tell that if I'm bringing in, say, Mercy in my organization, can I be able to actually do a thorough reference and background check? And you see, all that ties to what I was saying about trust. I'm bringing in Mercy. She's fresh from campus. I want her to work in my cybersecurity department, but I trust her papers to the extent that I will not be willing to go the extra mile and do a thorough background check on her character. Okay, so there's that trust issue there that I think coupled with the other societal issues we're facing, that's what's advancing the cyber threat landscape in East Africa. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. So we've seen the different cyber threats that are happening in East Africa and some of the drivers that are affecting the changing threat landscape. So what can we do as organizations, as countries in East Africa to be able to mitigate some of these threats? Diana, would you like to touch on that?
Thank you, Mercy. I think I'll start from the fact that awareness is key, and awareness from the point that cybersecurity is not just a responsibility of me as a profession, but it's for everyone in the organization. From the cleaner to the CEO, we are all responsible for cybersecurity, because you being negligent at physical security level, you can lead to a cyber attack. So demystifying cybersecurity and saying, you know what, it is a responsibility of everyone. and actually also looking at it as a non-technical field, because the number one tool that we have to combat cybersecurity is user awareness, meaning a teacher who has been a lecturer and can articulate ideas is a cybersecurity specialist in their way. So one, we need to not look at it as a technical field. And I think that will also encourage more women to get into cybersecurity, because the idea is that we look at it as complex. It is, you need to know technology to be able to do cybersecurity, and people shy away from it. But if that was the case, then some of us wouldn't be, because I don't need to be a developer, a coder, to actually look out at someone's application and say, you know what, you haven't done it the right way. So I feel the key will be around awareness from the fact of it is for everyone. One, it's a responsibility for everyone, and anyone can actually be a cybersecurity specialist. When Rola was talking about mentorship and this being a women's platform, I'll give a scenario, an experience I've had this week. On my LinkedIn, I've had 2 young gentlemen get to me and they're like, Diana, I want to be like you. How do I get to where you are? How do I do the professional courses that you are doing? And I had to walk them the journey. You know, there's a misconception, or even when we advertise jobs, they're asking for certification, CISSP. But when you look at the journey of certification, CISSP as a certificate is at advanced level. You're a CISO, you are a manager, that's when you need that. But if I'm starting out, shouldn't I be doing Compare Plus? Shouldn't I be doing CCNA to get the network security that is there? So there's that lack of guidance to say, you know what? You do not have to start with the advanced courses. You need to actually build your skills from ground up. So we're having these people that have gone crammed and did these certifications. They get to a panel or to a job and they can't deliver because they don't know. They did at something that they need to apply at managerial level, but they are coming at security operation level. So key is awareness, and then mentorship on how do you systematically take on the journey of cybersecurity, so that you understand it from, by the time you're at the CISO level, no one can confuse you or tell you a lie from operational point of view. So awareness, mentorship, skilling will get us to narrow the gaps that we have. Of course, the major one gap when it comes to cybersecurity is skill. Yeah. So if we can find ways to really get people knowledgeable and bridge those gaps, I think we'll be able to manage cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from you is you're saying we need to also demystify cybersecurity to common citizens, as well as there's a role that hiring managers have to play when we're hiring, especially entry-level staff into cybersecurity. So if you're demanding such certifications at a higher level, yet this is someone who is coming in from probably university, they need to at least do, entry-level certifications that should be able to, that are at that beginner or intermediate level, then build up their skills as they continue to gain experience. So as hiring managers, and if you're at a higher level, I think we play a very critical role when we're trying to encourage new entrants into the cybersecurity field, especially with regards to women in cybersecurity. Pauli, do you think that organizations in East Africa are headed in the right direction with regards to what they're doing to try to mitigate cybersecurity threats?
A lot is being done. We are not yet there. As you know that when it comes to cyber, there's still that skills gap, especially worldwide. As Diana mentioned, there's needs when it comes to entry-level requirements. I'm not sure whether you guys saw where someone had posted that you need 4 years experience for fast API, but then the developer who developed fast API had only 1.5 years. At times we're finding when it comes to entry-level jobs, people are putting very high requirements such that as an internship, you're even required to have, besides the various certifications, you're also required to have experience of 5 years, which at times it doesn't make sense. And 2, if we're trying to fix the skills gap issue, we'll need to give these guys opportunities where you can take them, nurture them such that it will be hard even for these guys to even leave organizations, since they see the value. They know the organization is taking care of them when it comes to development. And this is going to help in terms of fixing the skills gap. Then something to add is when you're looking at the regulation industry, you're finding the financial aspect. Considering most of the time cybercrime is more, the motivation is usually the financial gain. You're finding banks, like I would say in Kenya, we have the CBK cybersecurity guidelines, which they came out around in 2017. And over the years, you'd have seen board never used to have much concern when it came to cyber, but they have that overall responsibilities when it comes to banks. You're finding they're now appreciating cyber, and they're now coming to understand cyber is not just the hacking elements. There's also people, processes, and the technology. Where you'll find that things on strategy and governance. When it comes to cyber, you need to set your goals. Where do you want to be in the next 2, 3, or 4, 5 years? You're also finding in our own countries, they have national cybersecurity strategies, which are aimed to help ensure that the countries will grow when it comes to cyber. And not only that, you're finding that as you are looking in the institution structure, universities, some of them are not trained to offer cybersecurity courses, which they're now helping. At least now you can have university students to have those skills, even though it's at an entry level. We've seen organizations partnering here with institutions, the likes of IBM partnering with institutions to give courses on some of their applications. You have EC councils where they offer subsidized discounts, especially for the university students, and other certification courses, that even certification centers which are partnering with various institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. You've mentioned such a critical thing with regards to regulators and government's role in terms of playing a very critical role in counteracting the changing threat landscape with regards to cybersecurity. Befana, with regards to Tanzania, what measures or what initiatives is the government and such regulatory bodies doing within your country to be able to ensure that you're responding towards the landscape?
Mercy, can you please repeat your question, because I was hearing some other things here.
Sorry, I was saying I was talking about the role of regulators and governments in terms of putting measures in place with regards to counteracting the changing cyber threat landscape. So what are your government or what are your regulators in different industries doing to ensure that companies and organizations are responding to cyber threats effectively within Tanzania?
Okay, so far so good, especially with telecom. We are answering to few regulators, but the biggest ones are in Tanzania. We are responsible. We are working collaboratively with TCRA, who are the telecommunication regulators, and also we're working with the Bank of Tanzania for the M-Pesa, for the mobile money. So okay, so far so good. I'm seeing a great movement when it comes with regulators, especially with TCRA, because they're trying to ensure that it's not only, cybersecurity does not only remain within the organization, but also goes to the outside. So they're trying to bring in the gap between the organization and the external parties, or the organizations and our customers. For instance, I had attended a meeting whereby the regulator had put together, amongst the telecom practitioners. So, and the main focus on the meeting, it was to ensure that there is engagement between us and who we are serving when it comes to solving incidents and supporting them. So to be quite honest, in this time, I'm seeing a little bit of movement. So which is actually very promising, because from what I know they're doing with all of these regulations that they're putting, I can see they're trying to look out for us, and also they're trying to look out for whoever that we are serving, which is actually a good thing when it comes to, to our regulators. However, there's some few things that, can be done more to ensure that we are on that level, to ensure that we are fighting a good fight.
Yeah.
Like ensuring that whoever that we're serving, especially our customers, do not really, like, they do really know their responsibilities when it comes to, security. Because right now, the sort of mentality that I'm seeing is like, our customers think that we have to do everything, including some of their responsibilities. So I think we're moving towards there. Even from the last meeting I had attended, that was there is a shift towards that, ensuring that we as the industry know what we're supposed to do, and also whoever that we're serving, our customers, they should know what they're supposed to do to ensure that we're actually in a good fight. We are on alignment. Maybe that's what I should say.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that underpins the importance of government and industry collaborations in regards to user awareness and user training with regards to security issues for its citizens. In addition to what you've mentioned, Tanzania also has the Cyber Crime Act that was approved in 2015, and it makes provisions for criminalizing offenses related to computer systems and information and ICT related offenses. When we come to Kenya, Laura, could you touch on probably what Kenya is doing in terms of collaborations with the regulators, and also what the government has put in place to ensure cybersecurity is taken seriously?
Okay, thank you. Thank you about that. That's a good question. So for Kenya, I'll start with what the government is doing about it, or about the law. So the legal landscape, we have the Cyber Crimes and Misuse Act. It was enacted a while back. So that has really helped step up the legal and the prosecution system, because in the past, what would happen, any crimes associated with computers and technology would be quite difficult to prosecute, especially since the burden of proof is always on the accuser. So then, with the enactment of that Computer Crime and Misuse Act, we have had the legal fraternity having to upskill and learn more about technology-related frauds and crimes. And that has made it easier even for the legal fraternity to be able to table something to court. So that's what we are doing about it, number one, from a government perspective. And the second thing, we have a lot of awareness coming through from Communications Authority of Kenya around this, as well as a local CSAT, where they always send updates on what are the new and prevalent risks. I saw them being very active last year during the wake of COVID-19 between April and July, when people started working from home and people started becoming more alive to this cybersecurity risk. So every time posting an update with a hotline on where to report. And I think this is a very positive initiative and move by the Kenya ICT Authority that has really helped bring focus on cybersecurity related risks. From a regulator perspective, I can speak for the Kenya Central Bank of Kenya Prudential Guidelines. So the prudential guidelines are usually very specific around background checks on people who are working within the technology team. It's actually a regulatory requirement that detailed and thorough background checks are done on people working within any technology environment and accessing systems. So that forces us to go a step ahead and also vet our vendors and third parties. Beyond that, we also have cybersecurity guidelines that were enacted for PSPs and for banks in 2019 and I think 2017 respectively. And these give details on how to handle third parties, how to do a cybersecurity risk assessment. They even talk to the fact that the risks associated with cybersecurity need to be accepted only at board level. So that takes it a notch higher and makes sure that the board and the governance committees are very close to the cybersecurity journey that the organization is taking up. They've also mandated creation of certain roles like CISOs for organizations that are really involved in this payments chain. And then that then means that it's generated the right focus at a senior level. Beyond that, We also have, through the Kenya Bankers Association, I mean, just coming up with the IT security subcommittee, I think it's such a positive move because that subcommittee feeds into a bigger committee, but at least it allows the focus and the attention. And I must say, from a Kenyan context, the information sharing is great. Actually, in that committee, I'll get to know what are other banks experiencing, who are the third parties that have messed them up, what are the new things that are coming out, and the team openly shares. However, there's a vetting process that's done on the members of that committee and some sort of agreed non-disclosure that we say that if you hear that I'm speaking something and you know that I'm from Stanbic Bank, then you cannot proceed and start talking about it in another forum. So I think for us, I think those are such positive moves in the right direction. And of course, the training and awareness, we've had trainings that have been facilitated through KBA that actually speak to this subject matter. So it's bringing a lot of focus and a lot of talk and a lot of ask to the country executives by even the governor to pay attention to this type of risk. And I think then that's giving it the right elevated focus. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Bringing in very critical points with regards to governance of cybersecurity at the board level. I think if your boards are not looking at cybersecurity or even information security as a whole, then there's a lot to be, let me use the word wanting in that sense. I think it's very critical at this stage for boards to be more involved and even at least have or hire board members who have industry experience to be able to see that management, to oversee that management is actually putting in critical measures in place to address cybersecurity risks facing organizations. And even as we wrap up, Diana, I'd like you to just talk about what Uganda is doing as a country and even industry collaborations with regard to cybersecurity. I know Uganda was the first country to have the data in East Africa to recognize privacy as a fundamental right when they approved the Data Protection and Privacy Act in 2019. So maybe you could give us a background or just a few pointers in terms of that, what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Mercy. And when you mentioned that Uganda was among the first countries, I was here looking at the National Cybersecurity Index. And it puts Uganda actually second to Nigeria within Africa in terms of countries that are taking cybersecurity seriously. And some of the parameters they are using is to check, does the country have in place incident response? Are they able to prosecute cybercrime in the right way? So Uganda, I think, we tend to be fearful in nature as Ugandans. So we always are out to make sure that we have any protection, be it at human level, at any level. So it's no surprise that when anything comes up, we jump on it and ensure that it is done. So in terms of regulations, yes, we also do have the National Information Security Authority that has put out the IT security policy that then guides other organizations in what they should have in place as a policy to guide their cybersecurity strategy. We have the Uganda Communication Commission, which is mainly in charge of all communication, but that's where the CERT Cyber Incident Response Center is seated. And then within the banking sector, we are seeing our regulator coming up with cybersecurity guidelines to help us as financial institutions have cybersecurity at the forefront. Coming to the Data Protection and Privacy Act, again, Uganda knows that we do live alone Ugandans as nationals. We still had to adhere in some way or form or shape to that GDPR. So you'll find that our act aligns itself more on what we see in the GDPR Act in terms of the articles and things that we should have in place to protect the privacy of people's information. But what is key is that you can have privacy without, you can have security without privacy, but you cannot have privacy without security. So when you talk of cyber and data privacy, these things have to work. They are kind of distinct, but they have to work closely together for you to achieve the final objective. And one of the things that comes out in the Act is that it requires organizations to have data privacy officers in place. What I've seen with organizations that are trying to align, they will not have a standalone role that is looking at that, but they're looking for another role and adding that responsibility to that person. So I think going forward, we shall measure the growth of us appreciating the importance of data privacy where organizations are putting a person in place that is solely responsible for data privacy and adhering to the Act in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. So I think we're running out of time, but just to summarize what we've discussed as a whole, cyber threats basically within the region are continuously increasing on the rise. And we have seen that there are a lot of similarities within the three countries within East Africa in terms of the tools that are being used and the type of attacks that are happening. We've also seen that there's the increased need for organizations and citizens and associations, even such as Women in Cybersecurity, to be able to continuously demystify cybersecurity to common citizens, and as well as mentoring, the role of mentoring, especially to young graduates or young upcoming people in the IT world. Then lastly, there's the role of the regulators and the role of governments in enhancing efforts that some of the associations like ourselves are doing in terms of putting measures in place for organizations, for industries, and for citizens to be able to adhere to best practice in terms of cybersecurity governance. So I'd like to wind up with just giving each panelist just about 30 seconds to talk about what they're doing individually in their own capacity with regards to cybersecurity or efforts in relations to women in cybersecurity. So I'll start with you, Pauli.
Sure. Thanks, Marcy. From where I see it, besides being part of Women in Cybersecurity, WiCyS, I'm also part of SheHacks, where it's a group where they mainly focus on university students and also high school students. As part of that, we have a WhatsApp group where I'm able to share links of, if let's say there are some scholarships being offered, or even some trainings. Some good examples would be like the Udemy or even the Microsoft Ignite, where you'll find it cuts across various elements, including security. Those are some of the things I've been doing. Besides that, I've also been involved where KPMG does a Global Cyber Day. We did one last year in October, being the Cyber Month, where we try and reach out to kids, trying to sensitize them on cyber. It reaches to various age groups and also various genders besides kids. It's not only about kids alone, there's also the ladies there. Besides that, currently we're working with one of the governments in the world where we're trying to see how can we reach out to vulnerable groups, and women is being one of them. At the moment, I can't share the details, but as the years come, I'm hoping that we'll try and have Kenya mature, since you're trying to see how can Kenya mature based on the Oxford Cyber Maturity model. And in that cybersecurity training and awareness is one of the key things. And I'm hoping that being part of that project, we'll be able to reach out to as many women as possible among other vulnerable groups and help to grow the cybersecurity space. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Pauli. Befana?
Yeah, thank you. So I am just like what Pauli has said. I'm also a member of SheHack, but SheHack TZ. So in SheHack TZ, we just do mainly everything just like in Kenya. So we have not yet started engagement with external, going to schools and things like that. So right now we are just, I would say still building ourselves. So it's mainly of sharing, materials, opportunities, work opportunities, and mostly like encouraging each other and like mentoring each other. So it's not so active, but it is actually happening. And another thing is I'm also a part of Commonwealth alumni. So I really like to use my Commonwealth connections to help you, because I know at the end of the day, it all starts with, us eliminating ignorance, us going back to school and us studying. So as part of Commonwealth, I always tend to help people with, their scholarship applications and things like that, but mainly, with those ones that I'm engaged with in cybersecurity, especially women, because I know, in our African culture, when we reach a certain level, it's like we tend to forget if we have to keep on, finding education and, wanting to removing the ignorance that we have. So mainly it's through the SheHack thing, SheHack TZ thing, and, helping people when it comes to, finding scholarships with their essays and things like that. Also, I do not really have formal sort of engagement with students, but I have that informally, as I have got, some of my colleagues and friends who are working at universities. So I tend to tell them that I work in cybersecurity. So if anyone has got, they have got questions, or they want to know anything when it comes to cybersecurity, they should reach out. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't really say a day, but in a week, I have a lot of young people coming to me asking me how they, should do it. So I would say I provide a low-key and official mentoring to young people, because I believe it all begins with young people. It begins with the young generation for us to get there and be better.
All right, thank you. Diana and Laura, maybe you could wind up by also telling us what Women in Cybersecurity East Africa is doing as an affiliate. Then we could close the session.
Okay, thank you, Mercy. I'll let Laura really summarize it. So I'll quickly say that on a personal note, I do believe in the power of a story. So my mentorship is always around telling my story and where did I start and how have I got here, and have I arrived yet? Am I still aiming higher? I tell people I'm the next CISO when they make it a mandate that every organization should have a chief information security officer. So it's about using your story to empower the young ladies and say it can be done, because there's that notion of maybe luck was on your side without knowing the hard work and the perseverance that you had to put into actually make the shift. Tap into untested waters, coming from engineering and now you're into cybersecurity. So it's key for people to appreciate the journey so that they can appreciate what they want to get into. So in terms of women in cybersecurity, we were just made an affiliate not long ago, I think in December. So our first main focus is to get more women on board. It doesn't matter that you're not in cyber right now. Like I said, we need to demystify cybersecurity and let women know that technical, non-technical, you can actually do a cybersecurity role, our awareness training and everything. So that is a key. Number one, on board many women as possible to embrace and know that cybersecurity is a career that is here to stay, that even the lack of resources is so much that if you engage in it, the high chances that you'll fail to get a job, then there are limitless opportunities within the cybersecurity space. So as women in cybersecurity, number one, get women on board. Number two, give them the mentorship that we can give them as the initial members in terms of telling them our story and guiding them. Like I said, doing the right certification at the right stage in your career is critical. So that's where we are at, and we hope that through this partnership with WiCyS Global, we shall be able to get our young ladies, be it scholarships, be it mentors, to help them on their journey of cybersecurity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. I think for me, I'll not emphasize too much on women in cybersecurity because we've already talked about it. But in terms of what I'm doing is mentoring people in the bank where I work, mentoring young graduates even, not necessarily in the bank, but just through networks and through even family networks, basically being an ambassador. Regionally, spearheading cybersecurity risk discussions across Standard Bank Group where I work. demystifying the career options, because people always think that the minute you mention the word cyber, they imagine you sitting in a corner somewhere with a hoodie hacking from morning till evening. That's not what it's all about. They're very different career options. They're myriad, actually. You can't even exhaust them. And there are new ones that are coming up, with the new regulations coming up, with the changing landscape, with the Internet of Things, where you're now looking at security beyond the perimeter of your organization. I can tell you we cannot exhaust the career options. Speaking of career options, working with the secondary school students. So I noticed that the right time to influence people in a career in cybersecurity is not when they're already in campus. It's before they make the decision on what they intend to do. So working with them when they're still young and when their minds can still be formed to see this as a positive thing that they can be able to do, encouraging people to volunteer to do things around this field. Of course, my participation in WiCyS, and the fact that in the leadership forums that I sit in, whether within the bank or not, just keeping the conversation on cybersecurity alive. You'll be surprised at how this goes a long way when you have 6 other people in the organization who are not technical, but can be able to speak the cybersecurity risk management gospel. So I think that's it on my side, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your experiences. I hope the world has been able to see what we're doing in East Africa and will be able to appreciate it. If there's any person watching and would like to join us as an affiliate, you feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or on LinkedIn on our pages. So we are WiCyS East Africa on both platforms. And we're looking forward to having more people join us, more participants, even from other regions from Africa. So thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you.